It's time for embellishments. So, the two embellishments that we're going to embroider right now are going to be number one, the dimensional store sign. So that's the general store. What you're going to need for this is you're going to need wash away stabilizer. You are going to need a 4x4 hoop, and it is recommended that you stitch out with 60 weight top thread in the upper and 70-10 needle. So I have all of that. The only thing I'm adding that's not on here is I wrote use a matching black bobbin. I just find when you have really fine print, sometimes it will pull up that lower bobbin, and if you're using white, you may see some pinwheeling. So here are all my goodies all laid out. So my 60 weight thread, normal embroidery thread is 40 weight. 60 is going to be a little bit thinner, and that gives you just more definition and more detail. Here is this is going to be a black pre-wound bobbin. And then I have my embroidery leather. This was a little scrap. It's a little bit smaller than the size they asked for, but I think it's still going to be plenty big enough. And I have Microtex 70-10 needles that I'm going to be using for the embroidery. So the other thing that I'm going to be doing that's going to be a little bit different is they have you do this in one hooping. Well, this is super, super tiny. So on the next page, it's going to ask you to make the Mylar balloons. So instead of doing this in a separate hooping, I'm going to just combine designs and do this in the same hooping. So for this, you're going to need, and you should have this cut, you're going to have your organza. Sandwiched between your organza is going to be your Mylar, and then you're going to have another piece of organza. And then you need your twine, but we're going to just be doing that later, so don't worry about that. Again, it's asking for wash away stabilizer. That's why we're going to be doing it together. And that's kind of it. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm at the machine. First thing I did was I went over here and I chose my 4x4 hoop. The reason I did that is because it's going to give me an outline of how much room I have. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select my design. So first I will just go to my USB, Main Street Celebration, PES Designs, and let's go ahead and put in General Store first, set. I'm just going to take that and just use my move key. When I don't want it to move like left or right, I'll just use the move keys. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit add. I'm going to go back into my USB. And I'm looking for the balloons. Look how tiny that is. You can easily fit both of those. So no reason not to just go ahead and do both of these at the same time. I'll just move that down a little bit so it doesn't overlap. I'm going to hit embroidery, and it's going to, I didn't color group or anything. So it's going to go through all the steps for the sign first, and then it's going to do all the steps for the balloons. So let's go ahead and set you up right here. I'm going to slide my hoop on. Oh, I didn't change out everything yet. So first of all, I'm going to put in my bobbin. Then I'm going to put in my 70-10. Let me put in my 70-10 needle. I love my hoop tightener because I use it for everything. So when I'm changing out my needle, I use it. When I am tightening my hoop, I use it. I basically, like I said, I use it for everything. Looking for my skinny needle. Here we go. I have a little magnet next to my machine, and so I take my needles and I just stick them on the magnet, and they're not in use when I've used it a little bit. Okay, so we are set. Needle is changed out. Bobbin is changed out. Let's do our thread. It does tell you to use a neutral color in the beginning. I'm going to leave what I have in there. I have a khaki deco bob. You could just put in, whatever other color you wanted right now. And I'm going to slide this on. Okay, first step says stitch the sign placement line directly on the stabilizer. So I'm just going to hit start. And then it wants you to place the sign leather right side down. I'm sorry, it doesn't say that. It says right side up. I said right side down, and I looked and I go, that doesn't make sense. So look at this piece I have. Like the piece they told you to cut is huge. I'm just going to put this down. And then it wants you to stitch. It says stitch this sign tack down. It is asking you to change your color. So we are on step 2 right now. Stitch the sign tack down, and it asks you to do that in black. I don't know why you can't use a black for all of it. Should be fine. So if you used black for your tack down too, it should be fine. And it says to tape it down, but I'm just going to hold it. Once it starts stitching, it stays in place. And now it wants you to stitch out the words general store. Do you see that detail? I mean, it's just so defined when you use the 60 weight. And times I really like to use 60 weight, or times like this when I'm doing some really detailed lettering. I always use 60 weight when I'm doing Disney princesses and I'm doing things like their eyelashes or details in their face. And you're just going to take your little side hoppers and clip all of those little threads there. So it does want you to do a cut line so you know exactly where to cut. I'm just going to leave the black in because you are literally cutting directly on this line that this is going to stitch. So those are going to just pull right out. Okay, we are done with that embellishment other than trimming around it. So let's go ahead and we're going to do the dimensional mylar balloons. So we are on this step right now. And first thing it says to load the design. We've done that. Change top thread to white. We're also going to change out your bobbin. So don't forget to do that. So let's go ahead and pull this out. I'm going to put my white bobbin back in. And let's change out our upper thread to white. And slide my hoop back on. And it says stitch the balloon placement line directly on the stabilizer. So let's do our placement line first. After that, it says place one layer of organza, glitter side down, completely covering the placement line. Place the mylar on top of the organza, completely covering the placement line, and place one layer of organza, glitter side up, completely covering the mylar. Tape all layers in place. Oh, so you know what else I'm going to do, because I didn't do this, is I am going to change my needle back out because a 70-10 is a little thin for this stuff. When your thread is too thick, you just, it's not a good result. You just want to make sure that you have your needle thick enough for your thread passing through it. So let me go ahead and change out that needle too. I'm going to get my little screwdriver. And I usually stitch either 7511 embroidery needle or 8012 microtex. They're just my favorites. If it's really thick, I go 9014. So I'm going right now with my 7511. All right, let me get my little sandwich. So what it asked for was, and you can feel the glitter where it's rougher. That's going to be glitter side down. You're going to see you have tons of room here. I'm going to try and get some glitter on each one of these balloons. So I kind of moved it a little bit. My Mylar. And then this is glitter side. Okay, this is my glitter side up. All right. And the first stitch out is in white. It says, change top and bobbin thread to red. Oh, not yet. Hang on. Let me look at these and show them to you so we all read this together. The first step is this step right here where it says stitch the balloon tack down line. After you do that, then you're going to change the top and bobbin thread to red, and then you'll stitch the next step. But for this one, we're just going to leave it with the white. So you need a red bobbin and red thread for the upper. All right, we're going to change the top and the bottom to red. Right. So first it's going to do the satin stitch. It's going to stitch the balloon one fill. After this, we're going to go back to white. So we're going to change the top and the bobbin thread to white. And then we're going to do blue. So make sure you have a matching bobbin for your blue thread too. All right, so we're going to change everything out to white. And change that bobbin to white. And let's go ahead and stitch that. And then we're going to be doing blue. Let's go ahead and change out our bobbin. Put blue in the top. Let me show you how I take out my thread, because I did this once and I had somebody go, oh no, you're pulling back. You're not supposed to do that. So I don't pull back. I just take it and I unthread it. So I just take it and put it here, over here, past your tension disc. And then once it gets to here, it just comes right out. There's absolutely no tension holding your thread in there. So in case you were wondering and you were worried that I was mistreating my machine, I'm not. Okay, let me go ahead and thread. I would get your snips for the trim. Okay, because then you have to trim all this away, and then we're going to do our satin stitching. So I'm going to take this out. And your instructions are going to tell you to do them each layer separately, but I'm going to do each one. I'm going to do all 3 layers all at once. I just feel like, why not? You don't have to trim them all up separately. right. Just slide it back on. First step wants you to just leave all the blue in. You're just going to do the, so right now we're right up here. Trim the final layer of organza, and now it wants you to stitch the balloon 3 satin outline. Just leave in the blue, and then you're going to change everything out to red. And then after that, you'll change everything out to white. Let's do red. And then we'll change everything to white. It's a lot of glitter. Let's put our white in. Whoop. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to be dissolving these away, and so the balloons will become separated. But the general store, we're just going to be trimming. So if you don't have them yet, you should probably get yourself a pair of side hoppers. I love them. They look like this. They're like little feet, and like little penguin feet or something. And you can just take them. See if I can get this to stay right here. And you put one end underneath, and one end is sharper than the other. I think it's this one. Right underneath that little thread. And then you can just trim it. I don't know if that's separated. I don't want to cut the leather. See that? And then there's your little jump thread gone. You got to be careful with this leather because it's soft. Okay, there we go. There we go. Like that. Push that up with my finger a little bit and make it a little easier to get it. There we go. Cute, right? It's just so much easier to trim these. And I think we are good. Okay, now that line on the outside, that is your trim line. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this out of the hoop. Can you imagine if you just did this one little sign in there and then you did the balloon separately? So I'm going to go ahead and trim directly on that line. That's your cut line. So go ahead and trim the sign down. I love that they stitch a cut line because that way you don't have to eyeball and it's perfect. You're like, I did that. I cut it so perfectly. I'm a lefty, so if this looks strange to you, I just want to get all this stuff out of my way. Okay, and then you can just kind of pull away these, whatever remnants of those stitches are left. And I did have one last thread left from the start. Pretty cute. There we go. And it looks so good. It's going to look like, I don't want to say blobbish, but your stitching just doesn't look as good when it's this fine and you're using just regular thread. Okay, for the balloons, just cut them close. And you're just going to take them. The instructions say to put them in cold water. I always drop mine in at least lukewarm water. And you're just going to cut it close to the satin stitch. You don't want to cut that satin stitch, so just close to it. I always cut away as much as possible because it's like Elmer's glue. I just don't want any of that going down my sink. And I oftentimes will do this. I'm just going to do them all separated. I do this in a separate bowl. The other thing you're going to want to do is those threads on the back, you're going to want to trim those because the glue will stick to all of that. And then you'll have all these threads on the back side that you're going to be able to see. Don't lose them. You're going to have to stitch them again. So I like to trim all these. You know what would do a better job? My side hoppers. Doesn't like push them as much. The white ones won't matter as much, but the colored ones definitely get those. Okay, you're going to dissolve these, and then you're going to give it a little bit of time to dry. If you don't trim this stuff off the edge, then you see all of that because all the stabilizer is going to go bye-bye. Let's dissolve away. Look at this mess back here. This too, I want to get this thread out of here. Oh, I don't want to cut the wrong one. So I'm going to leave it like that. I cleaned it up a little bit. Looks a little bit better. I think this is that thread. I always say I'm going to leave it, and then I can't help myself. Okay. And finally, the white balloon, which I don't think we're really going to have to trim anything up here. Maybe these because they'll be hanging off, but you're not going to see them. All right. I'm going to go dissolve those, put them in some water. This one, I don't know. Did it say to dissolve the general store? Let's look. So for the general store, it just said to trim around, and that was it. So you don't have to worry about dissolving that. That's just going to get stitched right down anyways, but I will dissolve these. And then let's look at our instructions for the next embellishments. On to the dimensional mini quilt, which is so stinking cute. What you're going to need is you're going to need this little part of your embellishment kit, and we're just going to go ahead and cut out that mini quilt if I can figure out how to open it. And we're just going to cut out that little quilt. I'm just going to use scissors. You could do this with your rotary cutter if you wanted. Cut directly on, there's kind of like a gray line here. So I'm going to cut directly on that gray line. And I'm thinking, why am I doing this? It really would be easier with my rotary cutter. Hang on. And I'm back. Sometimes I think I just like doing things the hard way. I like to think I like working smart, not hard, but it doesn't always work out that way for me. So I've got my rotary cutter. Just going to go ahead and line this up with the edges. It's not totally straight, but that's all right. And that's just it being a little askew from the print. All right. So your instructions are going to tell you it wants your printed fabric panel. That's going to be what we just trimmed, this right here. And this is a mini of the red, white, and bloom. It wants your quilt back, which they had you cut, which is this right here. I'm actually not going to use that. I'm going to explain to you why. And then it wants you to do the clothesline. We're going to do that later, the bows later, the mini clothespins later, your flex foam. So here's my flex foam right here. What I'm going to do instead, because it wants you to so it says cut your quilt. It says place quilt fabric panel right side up on top of the flex foam. And then it wants you to use a straight stitch and machine quilt as desired. And then it wants you to place your back piece right side down. And then you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam and turn it inside out. What I'm going to do is I am going to do this part where we're going to go ahead and quilt it. I have my machine set up right now with my foot ready to go. I'm going to make an envelope back. So I just cut these and I'm going to press these in half. And that way, because it wants you to sew this one down, turn it inside out through a little opening, and then you're going to stitch that hole shut. I don't like doing that because I'm so lazy. So I'm going to just sew these to the back. And then I have a little envelope back and these overlap, and then I can turn it right side out through that hole and just press it and just be done with it. Okay. So that modification is going to be in the supply list. But for right now, let's take this over to the machine and we're just going to go ahead and do some quilting on this. I'm just going to do some straight line quilting. So I have my dual feet set up. I'm going to do a straight center stitch, but I am going to go ahead here and let's just turn on my guidelines. And that way I can use those when I'm laying everything down. So I have them on. I'm going to go ahead into my sublines, turn on my grid, and you can see how big those grid lines are. And I know they're going to strobe. That's just what they do when we're filming. So I'm going to make them much smaller. Let's see how that looks. And let's go ahead and change that color too. Green's a little bit bigger, better. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to do it diagonally like this. And let's make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going from corner to corner. I think that looks pretty good, don't you think? So there are my grid lines. That might be hard for you to see, but they're really, really nice for me. And I'm just going to go ahead and stitch. Let me pull my foot control back so I can see. And let's go ahead and start stitching. Now I have that one line. I can just go ahead and move it over, and then I'm going to stitch. I start with my needle down. I can butt this up against there. And I'm just keeping my eye right over here, making sure that grid line just stays on there. I know I'm going to run off my fabric a little bit earlier. I'm going to move that over. Let's put my needle down first. I can butt my fabric up against my needle. I'm going to just flip my fabric. Start with my needle down. Having trouble seeing just a little bit. Hang on a second because that was a little crooked. Let me go ahead and, I think we're going to be okay. Go ahead and just pull that down. I'm standing and sewing so I can see around the camera. So I can't totally see everything. Okay, now I'm going to go diagonal the other direction. And these are just little embellishments. Don't spend too much time on this. Did I do it all? Nope. Didn't do that side right there. All right. Okay, that is quilted. There's the truck. I'm trying to figure out what side is what side. I'm going to heat up my iron. I'm going to fold both of those pieces in half and iron them, and then we're going to sew it all together. So this is 2.5 by 2.5, and you're going to see I cut these 2.5 by 3.5. This is what you would just put face down. So at this point, if you want to just go ahead and do it as per the instructions, you're just going to go ahead and put this face down on top, sew around at 1/4 of an inch, and leave a little opening to turn it inside out. It's just way harder to turn it inside out that way too. So I'm just going to grab these two pieces, and I love an envelope back. I feel like it makes life so easy. You have all finished edges. And now I'm going to take this over to my machine, and I'm going to put this one down like this and this one down like this, and I'm going to sew at 1/4 of an inch all the way around. It's a little crooked, but that really is, it's partly the fabric and it's partly me. But it's going to look so cute. It's just an embellishment. Let's go back to the machine. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and sew around this at 1/4 of an inch. Start right there. Remember, you have markings on your foot. That should be 1/4 inch. Swing it around. Whoops, sorry, overshot it. Let's see, one more stitch, I think I'll do it. There we go. Maybe we will go that extra stitch. It's a little under. Let's go back one. Okay, we'll go to that one. I think I overshot a little bit. That's okay. And I'm going to just go and just do this one more time so that it's kind of sewn over itself. Okay. I'm going to trim those corners, and then we're going to turn this inside out. So, sorry, I'm trying to sew, and I'm looking from the left and not straight on just because my camera is in the way. So let's go ahead and cut those corners. I stitched that over and around, so I'm not worried about that coming out, because I did it twice. All right, now you have your little envelope back right here. And if you feel like this is going to be too bulky, you can get it down even more. Cut it like this, because that foam will make it a little more bulky. Just don't cut that corner. The only reason I cut that one corner is because I sewed over it a couple of times. Okay. And now we can go ahead and turn it right side out. And if you have a little point turner, you can grab your little point turner right now. Don't be too aggressive. I have the OESD point turner, and because it has rounded edges, I'm always more aggressive than I should be. And actually, this is really the way to do it. When you have an envelope back, flip one side and then push those corners out, because you can get to them, and then flip the other side and push those other corners out. Let me grab my point turner. Okay, here we go. I have this, and I'm going to use the bigger edge. This one, I find that I just go right through. Let me do it right here where I have a little bit of room. So I'm going to turn one side of my envelope, and I'm just going to kind of just gently push it. I kind of bounce it. Now let's do this side. Don't be too aggressive. Don't be too greedy. And then do the other one. If you do them both at the same time, you can't get to the first side. Okay. Go ahead and just gently push that one. I can't wait for this quilt. We should be getting this in the store soon. It's going to be so cute. And look how cute that is. So there's our little quilt. I always look for the little truck, which is right here because it's really small. Just to give me an idea of where the top is. Stray thread. Okay, this embellishment is done. Let's go ahead and do the other ones. We are going to be doing the dimensional flags and bunting. Make sure that your iron is on, and you can really choose whichever one of these you want. Kimberbell is popular everywhere. So you're going to see that there are some other flags that aren't our flag here. I'm just going to do the US flag, and I'm going to do this top bunting because I think it's so cute. So the instructions say, they say to cut your desired bunting and flag design from the prepared panel with an extra 1/8 inch fabric around the design. So we're going to do that first. So we're going to cut a little bit around this. You think that's 1/8 of an inch? And you could save these. I mean, I literally have I have a whole bag of leftovers from all the Kimberbell projects, and it has leftover, you know, specialty fabric, leftover buttons, leftover everything. So I'm just going to go and throw whatever is left from this into that bag. And this, you don't have to cut it perfectly. Okay, and this will go into that bag of special stuff. So you're going to want to grab your glitter. So here's my glitter. And if you just pinch it back from the paper side, it'll be easy to separate the two. I'm going to take this off. And it says, turn glitter to the back. So this is the back side of our glitter. And we're going to place printed panel right side up in the corner of the glitter sheet. So I'm just going to be putting it just like that. And then it says, press printed panel to the back of the glitter sheet. So let me go ahead. I'm going to get my Teflon sheet. Let me just reach over here for that. And I'm going to put it in between the two. I'm going to just sandwich it. And we are going to be trimming this directly, so don't worry about it being absolutely perfect. Let's see. And that Teflon sheet, it shouldn't stick to that at all. I'm going to hold it down just a little bit longer. And then we're going to do the same thing for the flag. It's hot. Okay, so this is adhered. And then the directions say to do not touch iron directly on the glitter sheet. Cut flag and bunting exactly on the outline. So then we can just go right along here. And you're going to cut it directly on the outline. There we go. And then we're going to go to cut around this. So it's a little bit scalloped. So I'm going to cut just leaving a little bit of that white on there. So you can see the scallop on the red. And then let's get our next piece of how cute is that? Okay, so we have this. I'm going to put this to the side with my little quilt. If I can find it. There it is. Oh, and you know what? I am going to give this a little press too. So let me get this out of the way. I'm going to put this all in the trash can before it gets stuck down to my iron. I should have my little US flag right here. And let me grab another piece of glitter. I have so much of this left over from other stuff, so I'm just going to put this down on here and I'm going to cut it out. Alrighty. Okay, so let's put this down. We're going to press this and then we'll trim it. I'm going to let this cool off a little bit. Might have to clean the sheet off. Now let's give this a little press. And let's trim this. Here we go. So those are all set. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to finish completing the embellishments, is I'm going to punch all the holes in my pillow top before I attach everything. So I'm just going to go ahead. I have a wooden block here that I use because you can see these holes that get punched in there, and it's better to punch them in the wooden block than your self-healing mat. And I'm just going to go through and let's go ahead. And what I have here is this is a OESD perfect punch. And you might have to not hit it, but put it through twice to get them. But it just makes perfect holes. There we go. Once you get it through, you can see through to the wood. That is 1, 2. I can't remember if that's an eyelet in the center of the windmill. Right. I feel like that may not be one. I'm going to look back in my instructions just to see if I'm supposed to punch that one through. You can see they're coming through the top right here. Oop, I can bang them out too. Look at that. I mean, it'll be like a little plug. So it starts to get really full. Did that one happen? Whoa, that kind of all came out. Get that back in there. Let me take this off for a second and see if I can tap those out. Here we go. So every once in a while you might have to clean it out. I could just take there we go. That was quite a few. All right, let's pop this back together. And continue on. Clear these again. They pile up fast. That all the way through. I don't know why my thing is coming out, but it goes back in pretty easily too. Okay. All right, let's keep moving along. Whoop, missed one. Missed one. And I mean, that hole goes clear through to this little opening. So you should be able to just pop them out that way too. Okay. All right, we're almost there. Then I'm going to give it one more look over and just make sure I got them all. Alrighty. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Good. Oh, I missed one. Right there. That looks great. That looks amazing. And that looks fantastic. Okay, all my eyelets are punched. Next thing we're going to do, let's go ahead and I'm going to go back to my first embellishments, and that was the general store. So it says to take the general store, and it wants you to use a needle and thread and tack dimensional store sign to the general store, centering on the lower roof. The sample was made by stitching a few stitches on each end of the sign on top of the tack down line. So that is going to be this right here. And my general store is right over here, and this is where my sign is going to go. So we want to center right above, and I think I am just going to go ahead and my sewing machine's set up. I'm just going to go ahead and sew in the white area around the sign. So I know it says to hand sew it, but anytime I can get away with not hand sewing, that's what I choose to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just stitch it down. Want to stay right outside of that black line. And there's so little leather to stitch on. I'm just gonna, sorry, take my time and go really, really slow. And I don't want to cover over the black line because it's so cute. And again, if you're not comfortable doing this, hand stitch it, please. One more. I wouldn't recommend doing this on a super, super fine stitch because you're just going to perforate that leather. One more. There we go. There we go. The border is so tiny. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut. And I didn't backstitch just because, like I said, there is so little room there. I didn't want to accidentally... And I'm not worried about there being a missing stitch or anything like that. I am totally good with it just the way it is. And general store is done. That is sewn on. Let's look at our directions and let's look at the next thing to go on. We're going to go ahead and add the balloons. So what you need is you need 3 5-inch pieces of the twine and 1 10-inch piece for the bow. So can I just tell you that tying the bow is usually for me the hardest part of this. And because it's harder to tie a bow when you're just tying it without anything there. And you're just tying it kind of in the air. I'm going to fold this and see if I can do a small bow. And just be kind to yourself. It is not easy. There we go. Got to pull the strings down like that. Okay, and then we are going to cut the bottom end right here. So I looped it over. First I tried to just tie it with one strand and it was going to be not very cute. So I think I'm going to have to do something like that because I don't want to cover over the bicycle. The bicycle's so cute too. You can adjust your bow. The loops on this are really big. So I'm going to adjust my bow loops down. Make sure you're pulling the right one. Okay. And I'm going to trim these down a little bit. All right. I am going to go ahead and hot glue this down. It says to hand tack it. Hand tacking is way too intense for me. So I'm going to go ahead, put a little dab right here. And make sure that my power strip is plugged in first. Let me go turn that on. We're ready. Give it a little dab of glue. For me, I'm not washing these. I don't know if you are going to be. I can't imagine any instance where I'm going to be washing these pillows. They're totally decorative. And then I can put I'll let mine go like that. And then I'm going to put one more dab of glue and I'm going to put that bow down. Oh, it's really cute from that side. Let me look and see which side I think it's cuter from. That side or that side? This side. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put my white balloon down first. And I will trim my twine away, a little bit. I was worried that the hot glue would melt the Mylar, but then I thought, wait a minute. I put an iron to that, and it doesn't do a thing, so it should be fine. So make sure when you put these down, you're putting the glue or you're sewing them down with the pretty end, the pretty side facing up. I'm going to cut those. There we go. That looks pretty cute. Here, I'm going to give you a little bit of a close-up. But I think that looks pretty darn cute. Okay, balloons are done. Next thing that we're going to do is the hanging of the dimensional mini quilt. So what it wants is it wants your clothesline to be 6 inches, and we're talking about the twine. Your bows, 2 10-inch pieces, and then we have our mini clothespins, and then we're going to go ahead and put it up. So instead of doing my bows separately and then the clothesline, I'm going to go ahead and do it all in one. So this is one I'm going to sew. So I'm going to go and get my needle with the biggest eye, which is this one. I'm going to go ahead and thread this through. Let's see if I can get it. I'm missing that one white strand. See if I can force it through. There we go. Got it. Sometimes persistence beats resistance. Alrighty. And it's going to come off that lower branch, or it can come off whatever you want it to come off. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it through right here. This would be a good time to get my pliers, because I think I might have to assist this through. Oh, here. This is a spot went in a lot easier. Okay. I'm a little bit lower. Let me see if I can get it right here. It went through. Let's see if it'll go through right there. Looking good. Let's make sure I'm only through one layer. I'm going to grab my pliers. Here are my needle nose pliers, and that'll just make it so much easier. Did you see how much easier that was? Okay, so this is the last piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's tie it here. Let's see if we can get a bow that's going to look pretty. It'll be so much easier to do this. How's that? But my problem is, I gotta get this the other way. I need this to go the other direction. Let me see if I tie this like this. Let me see if I can get it there. There we go. And sometimes it just takes working it to get it to come out right. Okay. There we go. That looks good. All right. And it's gonna go and it's gonna hang over to the corner of the house. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this. It's actually still on. And I'm just gonna put it right here and right here. It's always easier with a pair of tweezers. I know I hear people complaining that their hands just aren't as strong as they used to be. So I'm going to just tie it just like that. You're actually going to need to give it some slack on this end. And I find when I do this, I just have to do it a couple of times to get the right amount. Like, that'll work, kind of. Let's see. Is that going to hang down too much? Or will that be good? Let's see, because you can always pull it a little bit tighter. And we can go ahead and get our little clothespins. Uh-oh. Did you see how that one just came out? That one pulled almost all the way out. So just be careful. It looks like I need a little more slack on this side. And you know what we can do here, just to make sure this one doesn't come out, is now we're going to go ahead and tie this. And tie it in a knot. There we go. This around here and this around here. This like this. And let's be very careful with this. I'm going to tie this in one more knot. Here we go. All right. And this too. Just go ahead and hang this. How do they make these little clothespins? Do they have like people with really little hands make them? Because they're so tiny. Look how cute that is. And then let's just go ahead and trim your threads. Okay. So we are done with the quilt and our clothesline. Next one, let's go ahead and we are going to do our bunting. So for this one, it says tie bow with the 2 10-inch pieces of twine, and we're going to go ahead and put them down on the corners of the bunting. The bunting is going to go at the top of the general store, and then there's also the little flag, and the flag's going to go at the top of the fire post. So I'm going to tell you right now, my bunting's getting glued down. So here is my bunting. And that is going to go right up here above the window. Just like that. And I'm just going to use the hot glue gun. Here we go. It's so hard to do that because the windows, I just don't want to, it's okay. I'm going to do it. I wonder if I should have just put it right on the corner, but I'm going to go for it. That is down forever. I'm going to tie my bows now, so it's 2 10-inch pieces. Go ahead and take this off. And I'm just going to double those over because they came out really cute that way. So here's one 10-inch. Here's the other 10-inch. So I'm going to double these over. I'm going to go ahead and start over on this end. Kind of have to make it a little bigger just so you can fit it through. This down. What do you think? Is that one going to be good enough? And sometimes you're just going to have to do it again. Ooh, that one was pretty. Okay. All right, so I'm going to cut the bottom here and trim it so it's a little more even. And I'm going to do I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of really bad glue gun burns. That looks so adorable. Okay, let's do the next one. Again, we're going to go ahead and fold it in half. I'm going to start, let me start from the end that has the where it's folded over. Try it again. Just make it really big. Give your fingers some room. There we go. That one's going to be fantastic too. Go ahead and pull that smaller. Let's pull that smaller. And then let's trim them. I literally had people with the last pillow bring me their twine because they were struggling tying the bows. So if you're struggling with your bows, come see Jeannie. I'm just going to put it here. Oh, that was a lot of glue. Let's get it right on there. All right. Bunting's on. Let's go ahead and let's put on the flag. Flag is going to be on the top of the fire station. There's my fire station. Here is my flag. There's a little flag post right here. And I'm just going to glue them down. So that is my bunting, my flag. Then we'll put on the back and we are done. So for the buttons, I'm just going to hot glue gun them on. So let's go ahead and read through the instructions and see where they go. The dog is going to be the window of the fire station. So let's get him on there. And this is commitment because this is going to be hot and it is probably going to melt that vinyl. So you can sew this on if you want, but mine's going to stay on here forever. Dog is done. Fire hydrant is sewn on the ground between the fire station and the clock. So we have a fire hydrant, and that's going to be right here between, sewn on between the fire station and the clock. So we're going to just go ahead and put him right there. Right there. I'm just looking at my camera going, that was totally out of view, but we're going to put it right there. Between the fire station and the clock. Oh, the glue came all the way up through the holes. Get that. And then you have the cat. The cat is sewn sitting on the general store stairs. So here's the cat. And he's sitting on the stairs. And I think you could kind of put him anywhere. Let's look at the picture. Wow, he has him, they have him just about there. So I'm going to just put him right here. Get this. The gas sign is sewn to the top of the gas pump. Let's move on over. And that's going to be this sign right here that says gas. Just going to put this. I find it's easier to just lay my glue down here. A little bit askew, looks really cute. The picnic basket is sewn inside the pocket on the bed of the pickup truck. So here's my pickup basket, my picnic basket. There's my pickup truck, and this is going to go right there and just be tucked in a little bit. I almost feel like it's pushing it. Pushes it out a little bit, but let's go ahead, get some glue on this. And last but not least, the pillow is sewn to the porch swing. So here's my little cutie patootie pillow. Move that up. Here's my porch swing right here. And let's go ahead and figure out where you want your pillow to be. Something kind of like that looks cute. They have it in this corner right here. I think I'm going to go the opposite corner just because I want to try and be a little different. I'm just kidding. I just like it on the right. Okay, those are the embellishments. We are ready to complete the pillow. I'm going to do that on the serger.